Om Shri Sadgurave Namah. I bow down at the holy lotus feet of true Guru, whose words of wisdom are like mighty sunbeams to dispel the darkness of ignorance. Guru, the beneficence personified, takes the disciple to meet the Supreme Being. I offer my humblest obeisance again and again to such a benevolent Guru. Blessed is Guru, whose glory is indescribable in words. Whatever little I would or could say is only because of his compassionate grace. Oh, hello viewers. Jai Guru, Vaheguru, Radha Swami, Satyaram Sa, Namaste. Welcome to the seventh part of Satsang Talks in English. As usual, we will be first having a brief recap of whatever we had discussed in the previous part, and then we'll go on to develop the talks, expand the talks further. You might be thinking how long and why so long it is taking only to discuss the true nature of God. But please believe me, it is very, very important to understand how God in his true elements is, because that makes our job easier when we start discussing at why and how he should be realized. Therefore, let us be patient and try to have a sound understanding of the true nature of God, which is why we are taking so long to try to understand each and every aspect as far as possible to my limited abilities, the how God really is. So before proceeding further, I'll share my screen with you so that we can continue our lessons. So just a moment. I hope you are able to see my screen. Brief recap. In the previous episode, we had seen that God, infinite being, contains all, everything, every being, because he is the vastest, he is the largest possible, and anything else, any being else, has to be smaller than him, finite, and therefore it is very logical that everything will be contained within him. And at the same time, there is nothing that can contain him, because a container has to be larger than the contained, than what is contained. And therefore, because nothing could be larger than infinity, it is impossible for anything to be able to contain him, to accommodate him. And therefore, the statement, he contains all, but nothing can contain him. We had also seen that he is beyond all the three attributes. These three attributes are or could be compared to motion of mind in three different directions. One which takes him to mundane thoughts, mundane activities, pulling him towards worldly passions, material achievements, etc. which is known as Rajo Guna. And second, induces darker propensity in him, inducing him into lethargy, ignorance, violence, excessive indulgence, etc., etc. That is, tamogun becomes dominant if mind starts moving in a particular fashion. And similarly, a third possible orientation of mind could be when it is taken towards virtuous acts. It has got righteous leanings. It takes pleasure in all noble acts. And then we say that this mind is predominantly of satoguni mind. Okay, virtuous tendencies ruling the supreme. This we had seen, and this we had compared to a substance being loaded, a particular thing or model being loaded in three different directions, being subject to forces in three different directions. And experiments show that the object behaves differently if it is say acted upon by forces, external forces in three different directions. Similarly, this analogy could be taken to the mind also. But so far as infinity is concerned or God is concerned, there cannot be any movement because there is simply no space available around it, allowing it, enabling it to move or oscillate or agitate in any of the directions. So it is completely motionless, tranquil, silent, and therefore there cannot be any of the three types of attributes present in him. And hence he is said to be attributeless. This far we had seen in the previous talk, and let us take it ahead and discuss some of more specialities that are often associated with the infinite being, infinite God. So part 7 starts from here. And one property of that infinite being or God that we take up here is that he is unintelligible or ineffable, indescribable. This is so because the capacity of mind or intellect is very limited. Okay, that which is already restive cannot gauge the state of that which is completely still. Okay, mind, so far as its activities are concerned, mind can ponder over only such things it has already come across, experiences it has already experienced or come across. That is, that the things it has seen, the things it has come into contact with, it can try different permutations and combinations of those and produce some entirely new wonderful combinations. But still, mind cannot ponder over anything that it has never come across. If we come to intellect, then intellect has got the capacity to determine, to analyze, to understand, to grasp the true nature of even something it has not come across. And hence, intellectually, we have been discussing the true nature of God. By means of intellect, it is possible to understand how that infinite entity, how that supreme sovereign could be. But even this intellect could just give us a theoretical idea of how such an entity could be, but it cannot recognize, it cannot make us realize or have a direct realization or visualization or experience or experiential knowledge of such a being. So therefore, even intellect is incapable of seeing him, perceiving him, realizing him. Then if mind and intellect, they are not able to recognize God, then what to talk of our sensory organs or senses. That is, they will be even more limited in capacity. Like say, we have everything that we perceive around us in this universe, in this world that we inhabit, is through our five sensory organs or five senses: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin, which give us a knowledge of formed creation, formed being, shapes, or sounds, vibrations. Then smell, tongue gives us knowledge of taste, and skin, touch. We cannot have any other dimension of knowledge in the outer universe with the help of these five organs separately or even taken together. And how limited is the capacity of these, that if we want to describe, the question is that we are saying, when we say he is unintelligible, what is implied is that he is beyond the reach of mind and intellect. And when we say he is ineffable or indescribable, it means, it refers to the inability of ourselves to be describing him in words, either written or spoken. And this will sound very logical when we look at how limited is the ability of our senses. Okay, that is, even the things we have seen, we have tasted, we have heard, if we are asked to describe them, we may be faltering. Okay, we may be, say, unable to describe what has already been experienced by us. To understand this, let us take one simple example. I forget every time to maximize it. Okay. See, we have taken cases of certain, say, Indian sweets or desserts or even Western desserts. Okay. Now, I had labeled these three, say, sweets because, say, those living in the West might not be, say, very conversant with these sweets. So therefore, I have labeled, this is known as laddu, this is gulab jamun, and this is rasgulla. Similarly, we have taken three Western desserts. They are three different versions or flavors of pie: Marionberry pie, huckleberry pie, and chiffon pie. Now, what my point of view is that if I have eaten laddu, gulab jamun, as well as rasgulla, then I know the taste of each of these three sweets. So that if somebody offers me any one of these sweets, even in complete darkness, and if I keep it inside my mouth, on my tongue, just by having its taste, I can make out whether I am eating a laddu or a rasgulla or a gulab jamun. And very clearly so. That is, suppose somebody gives us to eat gulab jamun by blindfolding us and asks, how did it taste? And how did the laddu taste? Here he has given us a gulab jamun to eat, and then he asks, how did you like the laddu I just gave to you? I am blindfolded, I could not see what he has given to me. But the moment I taste, then what I'll say, don't try to fool me. This is gulab jamun that I am eating, this is not laddu. Okay, so that I have a very clear idea of what I am eating, because I know the taste of each one of these. Nobody can fool me. Similarly, those who are, say, aware of these three sweets, these three types of pies, will also be make out, distinguish one from the another, even in complete darkness. So this is how familiar we are with these sweets. But now the question is that if somebody asks that describe the difference in sweetness of these three types of pies you have eaten several times, a number of times, and then once we are given this task of describing, contrasting the difference in sweetness of these three different desserts, we'll find it extremely difficult or well nigh impossible. We'll try to use approximate words, this is slightly different. Its sweetness is more, say, intense or something like that. The words will be very approximate and they will not be able to exactly describe the difference in the sweetness, which is very clearly known to us. Okay, we have impeccably experienced the taste, and if we are given to taste, we can very easily tell the difference between the three. But if we are asked to describe the difference in the sweetness, we'll not be able to do so. That is how limited this say organ of speaking or speech is. Similarly, say things we see, this was about things we taste, things we see. Generally, in computer programming, we take any color we want to create, we take three primary colors, they are known as RGB, R for red, G for green, and B for blue. And by combining different shades of these three colors, we can create any other color, and all the different shades, millions of shades. There are so many shades of red in the nature. By seeing them with our eyes, we can differentiate between the different shades. Similarly, about green and about blue. But if again we are asked to describe the difference in these various shades of blue or green or red, we'll find ourselves at our wits' ends. We'll not be able to describe them, even though we understand and fully know the difference in these shades. So same thing applies to the objects of each of the five senses. The problem is that even though we know, we are not able to express the same in words, either spoken or written. This shows the limitation of our sensory organs. I'm reminded of a very interesting story. Revered Maharshi Sant Paramhans ji would often narrate in his discourses that a hermit lived in a cottage in woods, in forest. And one day he saw a deer running very fastly, struck by an arrow. And no sooner than the deer had passed and hid himself behind bushes nearby, hunter came following him, searching for him. And looking the hermit sitting outside the cottage, he asked him, Baba, did you see any deer running through or passing through this route? Baba is a term which is used to respectfully address monks or those who have taken to live a life of recluse. Okay, so now this hermit or monk who had actually seen the deer going that way, he came in a dilemma, that what should I do? I have actually seen the deer passing by, but if I tell yes, and I know he is hiding there, then this person would kill him. That would result in death of an innocent animal. At the same time, if I say that no, I didn't see, then I would be lying. Okay, and telling a lie is considered as one of the gravest sins. My Guru, Maharshi Mehi Paramhansji Maharaj, has listed 5 gravest sins, most serious sins. That is, we must not lie, we must not commit adultery, we must not steal. Okay, like that 5, we must not commit any violence. All these are 5, say, sins which have been described in almost all teachings of all the religions. Lord Buddha had also mentioned them as Panchashila. The same would be found in even teachings of the Quran or the commandments of Bible. Everywhere it is prohibited, proscribed to tell a lie, because lying is a basket which could hide all other demerits or vices of ours. So this hermit was really, say, in a very perplexed state of mind, what to do. But then he was quick-witted also. And this is one of the benefits that naturally accrue if we start meditating. Okay, presence of mind or say our quick-wittedness also increases as we go on meditating more and more. And he gave a very witty answer. What he said is that the one who has seen cannot tell, cannot speak, and the one who can speak has not seen. The speaker has not seen, and the seer cannot speak. Now the hunters thought, what absurd, what absurdity he is talking. He asked again, Baba, I am asking you, did you see a deer passing by ahead of me? He replied, he repeated the same answer. When he repeated this 3 times, the hunter thought that this man must be mad, and he went away. Now, what he had said was perfectly okay. He did not lie, but he, protected the life of the deer. What he said, that the seer cannot speak. Eyes have seen the deer, but eyes cannot describe, eyes cannot speak. And tongue can speak, but tongue can't see. So anyway, so what we were discussing is that ability of uh, our senses is very limited. Ability of mind and intellect is also limited. Mind cannot even say uh, ponder or contemplate on the true nature of God. In our intellect, we can determine how God should be, but by means of intellects, through intellect, we cannot see God. So intellectually, we can understand, theoretically, we can understand the concept that we have been doing since past, 5, 6 sessions. But this understanding, theoretical understanding, cannot take us to God, to realizing or to seeing Him in as a direct experience. So that is why he has been described, as we started, that he is unintelligible and ineffable or indescribable. Then another of the attributes of the attributeless is that he is all pervasive and yet transcendental. Okay, that is, he pervades everything and every being that we have seen, because he is the minutest possible. So he is pervasive everywhere, through everything, but still in his pure form, he transcends everything. That is, till so far as anything exists, he is there permeating through everything. But where anything and everything comes to an end, the whole creation comes to an end, then he exists even beyond that, and there he exists as a transcendental entity, because nothing apart from him exists there. So he has both these qualities. He is pervasive as well as he is beyond pervasiveness. Okay, he is a Vyapak, at the same time he is beyond Vyapakata. Being pervasive, he remains beyond pervasiveness. What does it mean? It means that first let us understand how he is pervasive and how he can maintain his own identity. You can look at this glass which is containing water, and at the same time there is clay or sand or gravel. Clay, sand, gravel, everything taken together, it represents soil element, one of the 5 elements. And because water is subtler than, finer than the soil, when it is mixed with soil, then it pervades through soil. Okay, so wherever there is even a single granule of soil, a single particle of soil, water will be there. It is present throughout the clay, but when all the clay has settled, then if we look at the layer that lies outside, that lies above the layer of soil, there water is present, and only water is present. If we consider water and soil, it is another matter that water also is pervaded by, say, air and by space. So what I'm trying to say, that water can pervade through soil, and at the same time it can maintain its separate identity beyond soil. Similarly, air, it is present, it pervades water because gases are dissolved, can be dissolved into liquids. So air is present inside water, and the water that is present inside the soil, because air is inside water, so air is inside soil also. So now air pervades water as well as soil, and at the same time, when where there is no water, there is air only. And what about space? Space is there through soil, through water, through air, and where atmosphere ends, even there, the space does exist. Similarly, God pervades the whole of creation, all layers or planes or realms of creation. He is through and through, everywhere he is completely pervading. But where nature ends, creation ends, beyond that, he is also there. And there, in that state, he alone exists. He and he alone. Nothing other than him exists. Now, where he and he alone exists, what we'll say? That there is no pervasiveness. He is beyond pervasiveness. Why? Because pervasiveness will, the term pervasiveness is meaningful. It has got relevance only so long as there is something to be pervaded. If there is no soil, whom water will pervade? So if water has to pervade something, there must be something ready to be pervaded. So therefore, the concept of pervasiveness exists only so long as there are things to be pervaded. But once we have moved beyond, above creation, then there is nothing to be pervaded. So there is no point in calling the property of pervasiveness being there in God. So therefore, he is pervasive, all pervasive, and at the same time, beyond pervasiveness also. That is, he is all pervasive and yet transcendental. He is incomparable also, because he is one without a second. There is nothing like him. There is nothing that could be even similar to him. So whom he will be compared to? Therefore, he is one without a second. He is incomparable. He is pure, because where he is there, only he and he is there. Nothing apart from him exists. So how impurity will creep in? If water is impure, what does it mean? That inside water, there is something other than water which is present. That is impurity. When we say gold is impure, so there are some other elements or metals that are present in the gold, which is not gold. And that is why we say that he is impure. But where God alone exists, there is nothing other than him. So where, say, how and where he'll get impure? How he can be impure? So he's perfectly pure, beyond all types of defects, all possible types of defects, diseases, differentiations. He is one only undifferentiated entity. He is beyond duality and opposites. Okay. In Sanskrit, they are known as, say, Dvandva and Dvaita. Dvandva is that which has got opposites. Like, say, we have something, say, something's in pair. We say day and night, dawn and dusk, good and bad, beautiful and ugly. Okay. Like that. So we have one thing and we have another thing that is opposite of that. And then there is duality. Duality means there are two or more than two. So two things are there. Where God is, there is nothing else. He is non-dual. And at the same time, because he only is there, so what could be opposite of him? Everywhere he is and is and is, that isness never goes. So what could be opposite of it? You cannot say that there is a place where he isn't. That is simply impossible. The moment we say that this is a place or this was a time when he was not there, then the whole concept of infinity gets shattered. So therefore, he is beyond duality and opposites, and he is also beyond triad. And this triad is known as triputi in Sanskrit. What is this triad? Let's try to understand this. This triad or triputi is known as where there are three things. That is, one is seer, another is seen, and third is the seeing, activity of seeing. There is, like, say, you are seeing me, and if I am seeing you, you are seeing me, so you are the seer, and I am the seen, and the activity of seeing is going on. We are trying to know how God is. So there is one knower, there is knowledge, that which requires to be known. And this process of, say, collecting data about knowledge, information about knowledge is knowing. So knower, knowledge, and knowing. Seer, seen, and seeing. Okay. Audience, sound, and hearing. So this combination of three is known as triad or triputi. If we evaluate God in this term, then we'll have to say that he is beyond triad also. Because for a seer, there must be something to be seen, some object which could be seen. Only then he will be a seer. If there is nothing to be seen, what type of seer he is? We cannot say he is seer. So therefore, if something is to be known, only then there will be a knower. But where God alone exists, there is nothing else to be seen. There is nothing else to be heard. There is nothing else to be tasted. There is nothing else to be touched. So who will know whom? So therefore, even triad or triputi does not exist. So therefore, he is said to be beyond triputi or triad. And at the same time, he is inactive as well. Okay, because directly he does not act, because he cannot move in any direction. He is so densely packed in all directions that he himself, in his purest form, cannot perform any action. But all actions are performed by him only, that we'll see later in our later talks. And one or two more points we could take up in this say talk, that he is the most ancient also. He is the oldest, most ancient. He is the oldest, because nothing precedes him. Nothing preceded him. Nothing can precede infinity. Because if we can find anything which existed before he, then we have found his limits or boundaries in time, and infiniteness is lost. So therefore, he has to be the oldest, but he is not oldest in the usual sense of the term. Like, say, if we call a person to have grown old, then what does it mean? That now his various parts are no longer the way as young and as fresh they used to be years earlier. How fresh an infant is. He starts growing, and then he starts, say, decadence sets in, and he starts growing old. Okay, or the attires we put on, our dresses, when we put on them for the first time, they are very fresh and new. But as time passes, they become old, 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 and they start degenerating, decaying, rotting. But the same is not true of God. Though he is the oldest, he is as fresh as he was at any point of time in the past, because no change takes place in him. He is not subject to any type of change, any degradation, or any improvisation. He is as he has been always, and he will be as he is forever. So therefore, though he is the oldest, at the same time, he is as new as he could be. So therefore, as I said, in the usual sense of the term that we use, old, he is not old, but he is the oldest, most ancient, and he is homeless also. Homeless, it might sound weird. How could we call such a powerful, such a potent being as homeless? Homeless are those who are very poor. They don't have the means to purchase or construct home. That is why they are homeless. But so it looks a bit baffling how God could be homeless. And if we pay attention to the term, that I am presenting this talk by staying inside my home, within my home. So if somebody has home, then home has to be bigger than him. Only then I can enter into home. I can move from one part of the home to another part. There are several rooms inside my home, and I keep on roaming or moving through all these parts of the home. That is, home has to be bigger than the one who lives in this. But what about God? He is the largest. He is the largest. Who could be bigger than him? Who has got the capacity or wherewithals to be able to contain him? Which is the home where he could get accommodated? He is his own home. There cannot be any home that can keep him, that he can live in. So therefore, he is known as homeless also. I think I did not see the watch when I started, but I think it should be time. There are just a few more points, very few number of points. So I think in the next lecture, it should be possible to discuss the remaining attributes of the infinite being, that is God. I hope I have been able to uh, explain the points I wished to. I have been able to put things in their proper perspective. As we go on discussing these various aspects of the true nature of God, the picture of God in our intellect would become more clearer and clearer. And once we have got a good grasp of the true nature of God, then it will be in the fitness of the things to start discussing how he could be realized. Okay, so all that for future subsequent lectures. Thank you very much for witnessing very patiently. And as in the past, I'll always request you once again that please let let me know your feedbacks, how you feel about these lectures. And if there are any lacunae or any, say, deficiencies or any points that are not covered, please let me know. I'll be obliged to you for that so that we could make our talks even more useful, even more productive. So I thank you once again from the core of my heart. Namaste, Jai Guru, Vaheguru Satya Ram Sa Radha Swami Ji. Om.